I'll just start off by saying how I feel it's very shameful for the finance chair, Peter Fonseca, that went into hiding as soon as the premiers came calling to call a meeting on their request. Premier, thank you for being here and thank you for joining 70% of Canadians and 6 other premiers, including a Liberal premier, in telling this Liberal NDP government to spike the hike on the road to axing the tax by a common-sense Conservative government. The PBO once again reconfirmed that families are at a net loss on average because of this carbon tax scam. For example, in Alberta, a family will pay $2,900 into this carbon tax scam, and according to the finance minister herself, she said that families, and she was bragging that Alberta families get $1,800 in rebates, and that somehow Albertans should be grateful for this. Premier, can you please tell Canadians the human toll that this carbon tax scam puts on Albertan families so that the Liberals can understand the real pain it causes?
Well, I can tell you a couple of things. The way I think most Albertans look at it is the government is taking $1 and promising to give back 75 cents. And everybody knows that that's not a good deal. We've seen in the polling that people don't support the increase. They don't support the tax. And I can tell you an MNP report from October 2023 showed that 51% of Canadians are $200 or less away from being unable to meet their financial obligations. We also find that in Alberta, people are more likely to say that their level of debt is concerning to them, 51%, and that they are worried about their ability to repay their debts, 71%. So we took a number of affordability measures in order to be able to offset these costs over the last number of years. Foregone revenue of $7 billion. In fact, I'd be happy to itemize it if the member would like to ask me about it. But we are now at a point where we have to run a balanced budget as well. And we're just asking for the federal government to recognize that it's their turn to do their part to ease the affordability crisis.
Thank you, Premier. As you mentioned, in Atlantic Canada, when their Liberal MPs were revolting because their poll numbers were tanking, Atlantic Canada got a carve-out. Alberta got no such carve-out, just like the rest of Canada. Do you feel this is just another blatant attack on Alberta?
Look, I know that the question has been raised about the Supreme Court decision on the carbon tax, and I believe that the Supreme Court decided in favor of the government on that because they were making the argument that it was such an important national issue, it needed to be dealt with in a national way, and the rules needed to apply equally across the country. And yet we've heard the Quebec members say that they don't pay a carbon tax. We have heard as well that in Atlantic Canada, the most polluting home heating fuel, in fact, which is home heating oil, now has a reprieve for 3 years. Meanwhile, many of the provinces in the West made the decision years ago to switch to cleaner burning natural gas, and we're getting punished for it. So I would just appeal to this committee that if you want to apply the carbon tax, it has to be applied equally across the country in all provinces for all types of fuel. And if you're not going to apply it that way, then you need to give a reprieve across the country so that everybody is treated fairly. I think it's creating a national unity crisis, and I do believe that it's the obligation of the members around this table representing all parties to ensure fairness in the way each citizen is treated in the country if they have the mandate to do so.
Chair, I'm just going to raise a point of order. And
sure. Go ahead, Mr.
My sincere apologies to the Premier. I don't want to be disrespectful. I think yesterday, I see Mr. Hallen has a prop on his computer. Yesterday, you deemed that to be a prop, so I would just suggest that if he can not display that while he's on the screen, I'll appreciate it because that's...
Sure.
Yeah.
I can't see from the angle I'm at, but... Oh, yes. Mr. Nackby has a point, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, sir.
It's too bad the Liberals are triggered by a sticker once again.